Hello, everyone. This will be part 2 of What If the MCU Kept All the Rights to Their Characters, Phase 5. Now, let's begin. Kicking off part 2 will be Iron Man 4. And this movie will essentially be the deep dive of Tony Stark's character and how his life has changed drastically over the years. The villains I'm thinking of for this movie will be Titanium Man and Fin Fang Foom. And I'd have a way to incorporate Fin Fang Foom into the story as he is a mystical dragon, and that would clash with Justin Hammer's slash Titanium Man's more technological and realistic approach. I would also have Iron Man wear his black and gold suit in this movie, as I just see that as a really cool suit in the comics that he wore, and it's just a shame that he never actually got to use that armor in the MCU. So this would be the first appearance of that new armor that he has. So Tony with this new armor would clash with Justin Hammer's a Titanium Man suit, in which he would finally be able to replicate Tony Stark's technology. With this being the conclusion of the Stark versus Hammer rivalry, with Fin Fang Foom bringing a more mystical approach to the movie. The movie would end with Titanium Man suffering at the same fate that Obadiah Stane did at the end of Iron Man 1, where he would be a victim of his own hubris and would ultimately be killed. I'd still have Fin Fang Foom still around just as a character in future MCU movies. The movie following will be Namor the Sub-Mariner, and this will essentially have Namor as the star character, of course, and the villains I'd have for this movie would be Atuma, as I'd have a similar plot to The Lion King, where Atuma doesn't see Namor as a right fit to rule Atlantis, so he commits a coup with a couple of other rogue Atlantean soldiers, and it would essentially be a fight for the throne of Atlantis. And I wanted to use this movie as an opportunity to further explore Namor's character, as he was one of the first Marvel superheroes created, and I just think that it's weird that he never really had his own solo film. Also, this movie would serve to explore Atlantis more, as it is an underwater city and it brings a whole new aspect into the MCU. And I'd have the post-credit scene be a tease to the Illuminati, where we would see Charles Xavier having a meeting with Namor, seeing the Atlantean king as a fellow mutant. But Namor would express that he has no interest in what Charles has to say. But the professor would go on into further detail and explaining how he feels that the Earth may need another layer of protection. The project following will be Heroes for Hire Season 2, and this will essentially be another season of Luke Cage and Iron Fist going around and taking up jobs for money. And it would have a couple of ties to Daredevil, setting up a future Defenders crossover down the line. The movie following will be Deadpool, and this will essentially be the same movie, except of course it would be released about 10 years after the actual movie was released in the real world. And I'd still have Ryan Reynolds to act as Deadpool, and I would also replace Negasonic Teenage Warhead with Kitty Pryde. And it would be established that both Colossus and Kitty Pryde are trying to recruit Deadpool, as the X-Men are lacking in numbers due to the recent leaving of both Wolverine and Storm, and they are trying to recruit more members to support their cause. Deadpool would of course tell them to shove it, and I would actually have Deadpool make more references to the overall Marvel universe, since rights wouldn't be an issue as every character is under the same umbrella. And there would also be a ton of references to Spider-Man, as it will be established that Deadpool made his suit as an inspiration from Spider-Man's classic red and blue suit. After this will be Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 5, and I would have this be the season finale of the show, as it would be the grand conclusion of and would hopefully tie up any loose ends. I would also have the Avengers make an appearance in the season finale as well. The movie following will be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and this will essentially be the same. And since the second Guardians film canonically takes place a few months after the first one, Nova won't really be in this movie. And besides that, the movie would roughly stay the same. After this will be Blade. And the character will, of course, be played by Mahershala Ali. And I'd have the main villain be Dracula, as I would also have this movie be rated R, since I feel that would be the best rating for Blade, as his comics are pretty gory. And I think if the movie wants to be as comic accurate as possible, then that would be the ideal rating for a Blade movie. This movie would also introduce the more supernatural horror aspects of the Marvel Universe. And I'd have the post-credit scene teasing the Midnight Suns. And now, the final movie of Phase 5 will be World War Hulk. We open up to the distant world known as Sakaar, where we would peer into the world and would see a beautiful civilization, one unchanged by the Grand Master's rule, and would find itself a new ruler in the Hulk. It has been years ever since the Hulk has left his home world, and through those years, he has managed to find himself a companion in which he could share his most peaceful moments with, as well as his companions who aided him in his rebellion against the Grand Master. Hulk has also grew out of making broken sentences, as now he has the ability to talk in full coherent ones. It is just another day in Sakaar, and the Hulk is tending to his wife, who he just recently discovered was pregnant, and the day he received the news was probably the happiest day in the giant's life. Everything was perfect. Now, Hulk won't lie. He did miss his companions back on Earth, but his days on that planet are over, and now he has a new life in which the people can actually appreciate him. Everything was perfect until one fateful day, a massive explosion would engulf the majority of the planet, causing chaos and would destroy a large chunk of the civilization. It was sudden and very brief, but it has brought so much destruction in its wake. The Hulk was surprised, as he does not expect this at all, and he would look around through the ruined city, trying to find his wife, until he would lay eyes on her dead corpse, as well as their unborn child. The Hulk would mourn for his wife, and he would be furious and outraged, demanding to find the source of the explosion. And so, with the help of his warbounds, he would go investigate and would see the site, which would leave him speechless. It was the same crash site in which he originally landed, where he had his Quinjet long ago. It would appear that that was the cause of the explosion. But Hulk didn't understand. He didn't know what to say. Why did it explode in the first place? Has it been rigged or encrypted somehow? Until he finally started to put the pieces together. That Quinjet was meant to kill him, and the Avengers must have tampered with it somehow in order to have it explode, thus killing him in the process. But he didn't understand. Why would his friends betray him like this? All of these emotions, anger, rage, shock, would leave him in a whirlwind, a vertigo of clashing emotions, until it would ultimately cultivate into rage. And so Hulk, with a new look in his eyes, would suit up and would order his warbound companions to do also, because they will be returning back to his home world, and they will be returning with a vengeance. We cut to the Earth, and everything seems to be normal for the most part. Civilians are out doing their daily activities, and the streets are safer than they have been in a long time. We would cut to Avengers Tower, where we would see Tony seemingly working on a new invention, as well as Captain America doing some workouts. and everything seems to be normal for the most part. That is, until Stark would get a reading on his scanner and would see a strange, peculiar ship heading towards the direction of Earth. Tony would be confused on what the ship could be and would wonder if this was another attempt on Earth from the Skrulls. Hank would also look at the scanner, and he would doubt it as that doesn't look like any of the Skrull ships that they've encountered before. The ship would be seen crossing the atmosphere as it would hover above New York. The Avengers would be on their battle stances and ready to defend in case of any emergency. And as if on cue, a large battalion of what seems to be alien soldiers would descend down from the ship and would proceed to attack the New York civilians. The Avengers would suit up and would prepare to defend, and they would attack the soldiers as well in a unified fashion. Captain America would be confused. What the hell is going on, and who the hell are these guys? Iron Man would just say, does it even matter? They're the bad guys and they need to be stopped. Hank would go giant and would proceed to crush bands of alien soldiers. I don't know who these guys are, but they must mean business. Everyone stay sharp. We would also see Vision, Hawkeye, and Wasp assisting in the battle as well. And we would see that most of the battalion has already been defeated and the numbers are starting to get sparse. That is until a most peculiar figure would jump out of the ship and land a couple meters in front of the Avengers. Their faces would be encapsulated in shock as only one word would escape Tony's mouth. Bruce? The Hulk would be revealed to be in front of the Avengers, sporting full gladiatorial armor, and he would begin to walk towards the Avengers with a crazed look in his eyes. Captain America would be the first to approach. Dr. Banner, how is this possible? Why are you attacking Earth? No words would be exchanged as the Hulk's fist would crash against Captain America's face, and it would create a large audible crash along the city. Captain America would go flying a dozen feet in the air before crashing into a building. The rest of the Avengers would be left in shock as they have no idea what has caused the Hulk to be like this and why he has returned in the first place or how. We would see Captain America where he crashed, and his face would be a bloody mess with a few broken teeth as well as a cracked skull. Had it have been any other man, they would have perished right there and then, but this was the first Avenger. Only 2 words would escape the Hulk's mouth. Who's next? A news outbreak would appear to be going on, featuring the Hulk decimating the Avengers, as we would see a news camera flash with him holding Iron Man by the head before throwing him against a car. We would see the condition of the other Avengers. We would see Hawkeye barely breathing and injured severely, as well as Wasp, who was laying down next to Hank. Both injuries are no better than Hawkeye. We would also see Vision being the last defender against the Hulk. We would see him tackle the beast. Hulk would crash Vision against the window before sending him flying towards the air. Vision would use the Mind Stone in his head to blast down at the Hulk. Hulk would block the beam with his hand before jumping up to abnormal heights and slamming Vision back down against the ground. Vision would crash and Hulk would stomp on his back, causing immeasurable pain for the synthetic android. Vision would phase through, trying to get away from Hulk, before the Hulk would try to crash his fist against Vision again, but his hands would just phase through the Vision's body. Vision would use this opportunity to try and stop the Hulk by reaching into his insides. But the Hulk would take advantage of Vision's sympathy by grabbing the body of the Wasp and throwing it towards Vision. Vision, knowing that the Wasp is in critical condition and if she takes another blow she'll most likely be dead, has no choice but to catch the Wasp safely in his arms. She is unconscious but still barely breathing. Vision would look up to see Hulk's fist crashing against his skull before crashing it down into the earth with a large crash, sending a shockwave for miles. Vision is now knocked out and the Hulk will have seen defeating the entirety of the Avengers. Hulk would whir up into the air with primal fury. That is until we would see storm clouds encapsulate the entirety of New York, and a large lightning bolt would strike down on the Hulk, causing him temporary paralysis before he would gather his bearings and stand up to see the god of thunder himself, Thor, descending upon him. "What madness has brought this upon you, Banner?" Hulk would look up at Thor. "I was wondering where you were hiding." Thor would crash down on the Hulk. The Hulk would counter by throwing his fist, and both clashes would create a large shockwave, destroying every building in sight. What would follow would be the Battle of the Millennia, with Thor and Hulk both exchanging powerful blows. Thor would strike the Hulk with Mjolnir, creating a large shockwave. The Hulk would counter by throwing his fist at Thor, creating another shockwave. It would appear to be the battle of a god versus a titan. But as we all know, the angrier the Hulk gets, the stronger I am. The Hulk's fist would crash against Thor's torso, sending him flying a dozen feet through the concrete. The Hulk would scream towards Thor's direction before charging to him, attempting to conduct a finishing blow. That is until a web will encapsulate Hulk's face. He would rip it off easily and would turn towards the direction of Spider-Man, now donning his red and blue costume once again. "Jeez, talk about a noisy neighbor." The Hulk would jump towards Spider-Man and would throw his fist. Spider-Man would dodge easily, and what would follow is a game of cat and mouse. We would see the Hulk stampeding through the New York streets, attempting to catch Spider-Man, but Spider-Man's finesse outweighs the Hulk, in which he would dash and bob and weave from the Hulk's attacks. The Hulk would grow more frustrated as he doesn't seem to be hitting anything. Spider-Man would proceed to swing away from the Hulk yet again until the Hulk would finally have enough and would crash his palms against each other. His signature move, the thunderclap, towards Spider-Man's direction. The shockwave would leave the web slinger disoriented and would snap his web, causing him to collapse to the ground, still a bit disoriented from the shockwave, and the Hulk would dash towards Spider-Man, attempting to throw a punch. Before Hulk throws the punch, he would say, "Did you really think you could beat me?" A string of fire would engulf the Hulk, causing him to reel back and jump away from Spider-Man. "Of course not, you big dumb giant. I was only here to distract you." We would see the Fantastic Four behind Spider-Man. The Thing would charge first, and the Hulk would as well. Both of them would clash against each other, the Thing remarking, "Finally," before slamming his fist against the Hulk's face, causing him to stumble back a bit before the Thing would follow through with an uppercut, sending the Hulk reeling back just a bit. What would follow is an onslaught of fire sent by Johnny Storm, and Sue would attempt to trap the Hulk in an invisible bubble and attempt to suffocate him. The Hulk would break through this with ease and would crash against towards the Thing, sending him back a dozen feet with a mighty punch. Mr. Fantastic would attempt to entrap the Hulk using his elastic body. The Hulk would rip through him and would detangle himself away from Mr. Fantastic and would throw him towards the Invisible Woman. The Invisible Woman would catch him, but this would lead to a distraction which would cause Hulk to punch the Invisible Woman. But the Invisible Woman would activate a force field trying to block the punch, which it would work, but it would send him flying a dozen feet before crashing into a building. Johnny Storm would be enraged and would try to attack the Hulk once more. The Hulk has become more aware of this firepower and thus would block it with his arm before sending a car towards Johnny's way. It would connect, sending Johnny crashing into the street, unconscious. The Thing would retaliate by tackling Hulk head-on once more, but the Hulk would grab Thing by the head and would slam him down against the concrete, holding his head in place. We would see military forces surround the Hulk, many cars and helicopters, and you would see armed soldiers attempting to fire at the Hulk, but their bullets would do no use, as the Hulk would simply shrug them off and would crash against each car, sending each armed officer flying. We would see most of the military forces defeated, as we would see an armed officer on the ground, his leg broken. The Hulk would see this and would stomp towards the military officer. He would try to back away, but the Hulk would grab him with his large hands, would proceed to throw him into the air. Before the armed officer could hit the ground, he would be caught by a mysterious blue person, and he would then teleport back safely on the ground. And what would follow is we would see the entirety of the X-Men, and the one who caught the officer was Nightcrawler. "Hope we're not too late," says Cyclops. Hulk would vaguely remember the X-Men from their time in helping the Avengers defeat Ultron. But that didn't matter to him. If these guys were friends of the Avengers, then they were enemies to him, and he would charge towards the X-Men, but not before Cyclops would make him back away using his optic blast, sending Hulk flying a dozen feet. The rest of the team would follow. Emma Frost would attempt to use her telepathy to try and attack the Hulk's minds. The Hulk would clutch his head in pain before looking at Emma Frost, attempting to crush her. That is until the Rogue would come flying towards the Hulk, crashing into him with a fist that would send the Hulk stumbling back a couple of feet. And this would allow Gambit to use his cars to try and explode the Hulk. Colossus would also join the fray, tackling the Hulk, attempting to outpower him, but the Hulk would prove to be too strong, and he would slam Colossus into the ground. Nightcrawler would teleport around the Hulk, attacking him from different angles. The Hulk would become frustrated as he can't seem to hit Nightcrawler, as every time he tries to connect a fist, Nightcrawler would just teleport away, until the Hulk would get lucky and would predict where Nightcrawler would attack next. And though, before Nightcrawler can get a hit in, the Hulk would slam his fist against his chest, sending him reeling back, flying a dozen feet, cracking his ribs as well as a couple more bones. Iceman would try to freeze the Hulk, but the Hulk would endure and would break away the ice before charging towards Iceman, before being tackled by Beast. The Hulk would shake him off easily and would charge towards Iceman yet again, slamming his elbow against the Iceman's cheek, sending him flying through the concrete. Cyclops would be preparing his logic optic blast yet, and we would see him clutching his visors in an attempt to try and blast the Hulk away, which he would, unleashing an ultimate fury of optic blast. The Hulk would be shocked as he would be sent flying through buildings, but Cyclops would not let up, and he would continue to blast the Hulk away, concentrating his power on every level. A couple minutes would roll by until Cyclops would finally release his blast, and there would be no sign or trace of the Hulk. Emma Frost would approach Cyclops. "Nicely done, Summers." Cyclops would collapse down on the ground with exhaustion. The rest of the X-Men would gather around Cyclops. Cyclops, still on the ground, would say, "Good job, guys. I don't think he would have escaped." The Hulk would crash down on the ground a couple feet away from the X-Men. They would look on in horror and shock as they thought the Hulk was dead. The Hulk would look at the X-Men with a crazed look in his eyes. "Is that all you've got?" We would see the news broadcast yet again, but this time it would be of Hulk decimating the X-Men as he would be holding Kitty Pryde in his gigantic hand. We would cut to New Asgard as we would see Loki peering into the fight using his magical abilities before he would transfer back into the kingdom and would stomp around towards the dungeon until he would reach a peculiar cell where we would find a strange blonde man sitting down. This would appear to be Sentry. Sentry would look towards the god of mischief, not knowing what he is up to. Loki would simply state, "I know my brother wouldn't approve of this. In fact, he'd be quite furious, but seeing as there's no other option, and I'm beginning to like it here." With a clap of his hands, the Sentry would be released from the cell, and he would approach Loki. "Well, why are you doing this?" "Simple, 'cause I need your help. Last time someone needed my help, I killed a lot of people. Well, hopefully your unique set of abilities will be useful here. Now, come on, we're going to take a trip to New York." Loki would grab Sentry by the hands, and both of them would teleport away. Hulk would be still seen rampaging throughout the streets of New York, most of the city decimated due to the battle. That would be until the Hulk would appear to be trapped in what appears to be a mystical rope before out would step towards Doctor Strange, Wong, as well as multiple other sorcerers. "Dr. Banner, I know why you're upset, but for the good of the people in this city and this world. I can't allow you to go on any further. The Hulk would look at Doctor Strange. Before forcibly releasing his hands from the rope, he would then dash towards the sorcerers and would compete in an ultimate battle against them. The sorcerer would pull up a valiant resistance, but the Hulk's might would prove to be too much as most of them would be decimated. Wong would attempt to stop the Hulk, but the Hulk would throw a punch his way, but Wong would dodge using his magical shield, but would still be sent back. Doctor Strange would proceed to use his powers to enter through the Hulk's mind, and he would be confronted with a mental image of Bruce Banner. Bruce would be shocked as he has never seen anyone enter his mind like this. Doctor Strange would approach Bruce. Listen, I know you're hurting, but for the sake of everyone, you need to stop. Bruce would look at Doctor Strange before turning his head. I can't. The Hulk, he's a different entity. He's angry. I know. But you need to try and control this, Bruce. Please. Bruce would look at Doctor Strange. It's not just him. I'm angry too. Before Bruce would then clutch Doctor Strange by the neck. Doctor Strange would try to have Bruce let him go, but Bruce would be surprisingly firm in his grip. I'm angry at everyone. I'm angry at my team. I'm angry at this planet. We would cut back to see the Hulk holding Doctor Strange by the neck in real time, and is about to snap the neck of the Sorcerer Supreme until a rocket launcher would attack the Hulk's back. He would throw Doctor Strange into a car and return back to see none other than Thunderbolt Ross holding the rocket launcher just a couple of feet away from him. I was wondering when you returned, you bastard. Another rocket would be launched, but this time the Hulk would catch it and throw it towards the other direction. I remember you. The Hulk would slowly stomp toward Ross. We would cut back to Ross. So do I. Ross would discard of the rocket launcher before pulling his sleeve up and would bring out a certain syringe before injecting himself with it. I remember you. I remember you all too well, Banner. I can't stop thinking of you. The Hulk would continue to stomp towards Ross. You've always been a nightmare to me, and a nightmare to my family, but no more. Now I'm going to deal with you on my own terms. The Hulk would be only mere inches away from Ross, and sometimes, to fight a monster, Hulk would be standing directly in front of General Ross before a large red fist would come crashing into his torso, sending him flying a dozen feet into the concrete. General Ross would continue to transform until he is fully transformed into the Red Hulk. You have to become a monster. The Hulk and Red Hulk would then dash towards each other, creating another large shockwave, and would result in a battle which would have the two titans trading blows. Red Hulk would put up better of a fight, but the Hulk would continue to insist and would grow more angrier by the seconds. That is until a hammer would come crashing towards the Hulk's face, which would send him reeling back, and the hammer would call back towards Thor, and Thor would infuse lightning in it before striking the Hulk once more, sending him stumbling back. Red Hulk would look at Thor with a smile. It's about time you got here, Goldilocks. Both Thor and Hulk would exchange no more words as their primary enemy was at the Hulk at this moment. And so, both of them would continue to attack the green beast. The Hulk would put up a valiant effort, that is until the Thing would grab his arm and would slam his fist against the Hulk's face. Don't count me out, it's clobbering time. We would see Colossus join the mix as well, swinging his fist, landing a right hook against Hulk's cheek. Your figure, the Hulk Buster, now donned in black and gold, and it would reveal to be Iron Man, Tony Stark inside. So now, the Hulkbuster, Thor, Red Hulk, the Thing, and Colossus would all proceed to attack the Hulk. What would follow is the battle of powerhouses. We would see the Hulk holding his own against these five forces. But the unlikely team would surprisingly have good synergy. We would see Red Hulk clashing his fist against the Hulk chin, an uppercut, sending the Hulk flying up towards the air. We would also see Thor use his lightning-infused hammer to blast Hulk further up into the atmosphere, before Hulkbuster would slam his fist against the Hulk's gut before using his unibeam to blast Hulk down back towards the ground in a slope-like formation, before we would also see Colossus preparing a double hammer fist, crashing his attack against the Hulk's face, which would send the Hulk reeling back and cause him to spin towards the ground. We would also see the Thing preparing a punch which would land and would smack the Hulk into the concrete, creating a large crater. With the Hulk down on the ground, this would create the opportunity for the five forces to attack him. The Hulk would be ganged up on as Thor, Hulkbuster, the Colossus, the Thing, and Red Hulk would proceed to ignite their own personal attacks against him, before Hulk would release a loud roar and further infuriated would crash everyone off of him. Hulk's power is seen like never before as he is angrier beyond belief, and with one stomp, everything vibrates as if an earthquake itself was on the rise. The Hulk would then create another stomp, and everything would shake as buildings would come collapsing, the buildings that hasn't been destroyed already from the battle. Thing would try to attack the Hulk first, but the Hulk would be too powerful as he would crash his fist against Thing, caving in his chest, causing immeasurable amounts of eternal bleeding. The Thing would collapse, severely injured. Colossus would be next as he would try to attack the Hulk from behind, but the Hulk would swat Colossus away as if he were a fly, sending him flying a dozen feet into the air. Red Hulk would be up next, trying to tackle the Hulk, but he would slam his fist against Red Hulk's cheek, slamming him down into the ground. Hulk would then dart his eyes towards the Hulkbuster before charging at it and ripping it to shreds, revealing the smaller Iron Man in his damaged armor. The Hulk would then grab Iron Man and would throw him into a car. The Hulk would then look at Thor, who, with resilient effort, would manage to stand up and would confront the Hulk, engaging in one last clash before the Hulk would crash his fist against the god's face, sending him flying towards a truck, which would cause an explosion. The Hulk would look around at his enemies, seeing every one of them on the ground. He would then look around the city, seeing the chaos he has caused. Immeasurable amounts of damage and fire would surround him. The Hulk would murmur to himself, "It was just like this. It was just like this when you bastards destroyed my home." We would then see a crying child amidst the destruction. She appears to be calling out for her mother. The Hulk would look at this and would proceed to approach the child. Doctor Strange, who is still conscious, would attempt to try and stop the Hulk, but Hulk would crash his fist against the sorcerer's chest, sending him flying. Hulk would begin to approach the child again, and he would be directly in front of them. The child would still be crying, and the Hulk would reach out to her. That is into a blue and gold streak would swipe the child away from the Hulk's grasp and would place the child safely away from the monster. And then what would follow is the same blue and gold streak crashing in front of the Hulk, and it would appear to be the Sentry. In the chaos, we would see many other street-level heroes escorting the civilians away from the fighting. We would see Daredevil, as well as Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and Jessica Jones evacuating the civilians. The Hulk would look at Sentry, and before he could say anything, the Sentry would simply state, "You're too loud." And with that, the Sentry would crash his fist against the Hulk's face, sending him flying into a building. The Hulk would be surprised as he did not expect this level of strength. The Hulk would then crash down against the ground once more, when his eyes would then meet that of Loki's, who would stare at the Hulk, with one event playing in his mind over and over. Loki would teleport away, leaving Sentry to deal with the monster. The Hulk and Sentry would then clash, creating a multitude of shockwaves, destroying the city farther than it has been destroyed. The Sentry would then throw the Hulk into the air before crashing against his fist into the Hulk's face, which would send them flying into the Brooklyn Bridge. Sentry would proceed to grab Hulk by the throat and would slam him down against the concrete before sliding him through the ground, before stopping and punching the Hulk directly into the concrete. The Hulk would then grab Sentry off him, throwing into one of the pillars of the bridge, which would cause it to stumble momentarily. Each and every person in every car would try to escape the onslaught, as we would see bystanders running away from the chaos as the Hulk and Sentry would continue their battle. The fight would be monumental, as it would escape the bridge and they would appear in front of another building where they would each clash each other's fist. Sentry would be overwhelmed as the Hulk would begin to overpower him. This would result in the awakening of a familiar figure. The Void would take control of the Sentry and would increase the power of Sentry thusfold, and the Void and the Hulk would clash once more, destroying multiple portions of the city around them. It was a battle like none other, as you would see many news outlets recording it. The battle would then travel into another street, where we would see the Hulk start to overwhelm the Void, as the Void would be trying to counter against the Hulk's mighty attacks, but the Hulk would slam his fist against the Void's torso, sending him flying back, and would appear to almost knock him out. The Hulk would appear to be unstoppable, as there might not be a force in this earth that could stop him from his rampage. That is until a peculiar woman would step in front of him, and it would appear to be Betty Ross, the daughter of Thunderbolt Ross, who was seeing the news and would try to calm the Hulk down from his onslaught. The Hulk would look at Betty before stomping towards her direction, but Betty would remain unflinching as she would approach the Hulk, caressing him by the hand. The Hulk would look at this gesture, unsure what to make of it, before Betty would look deep into his eyes and would simply say, "It's over, Bruce. You can stop fighting now." Those simple words would cause the Hulk to transform back into the long and overdue Bruce Banner, before Bruce would look at Betty one last time, before falling into unconsciousness. We would cut to a few months later. We would see the city start to repair itself, as we would see the likes of damage control taking care of the property damage, as well as many civilians helping each other repair their damaged shops. We would see the Avengers slowly start to mend themselves after Hulk's attack, speaking of whom we would see Bruce Banner in a highly guarded, highly secured facility in the raft, never to be released again. For now, at least. We would see Tony and Steve start to talk, as they would discuss the recent events of why Hulk came to Earth. Tony says that it was something about the Quinjet exploding on the planet that he was on, but Tony would recall that he had no explosive planted on that Quinjet, so he would be confused on how it managed to detonate. That would be until we would cut back to one of Hulk's supposedly dead war-bound companions. His name would be Meek, as he would then recall the events of him tampering with the Quinjet, causing it to explode, as he felt that the Hulk's rule was beginning to grow too tame, and he was beginning to think that their leader was soft, so he had to make the Quinjet explode as a way to make the Hulk a firm dictator once more. But seeing as how his plan failed, he must try and get back to Sakaar in order to rule it once more. That is, until a familiar red and black anti-hero would approach the creature. Stepping on Meek's hands, Meek would be looking up to see none other than the face of Deadpool. Hell, I stepped on shit. Deadpool will shoot Meek in the head, killing the bug. Now where can I find that Joe's Pizza place? We would get a post-credit scene of Thanos himself wielding the Infinity Gauntlet. Now he has both the Power Stone and the Reality Stone in his possession, and he would ask his minions where the next stones may be, in which they would point him to the direction of Earth. Thank you for watching, everyone. That was the end of my Phase 5 of What If Marvel Kept All of Their Characters. And the next video I have in mind will be the DC Universe Phase 3, so keep watch of that. And also, I will be preparing the Phase 6 very soon. So with that, I will see you guys later, and happy holidays. Stay warm.